Hey, shalom. How is everybody? I hope everything has been going great for you. We are continuing with our listen and learn immersion in the book of Judges. So this is directed Hebrew immersion, and the focus for today is we are focusing on listening and trying to understand through hearing. So this is particularly useful if you're commuting to work or something, or you just want to rest your eyes from screens for a while. Feel free to close your eyes and listen along. I will read at varying speeds. We'll repeat the verse several times. So if you miss something, don't worry. It will be repeated, probably at least 4 or 5 times. That word will be repeated. And I'm going to be sharing with you how the language works as we go. If you're new to this channel, we have at least 5 videos a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We've got Judges, which is always auditory learning. And then on the other days, they're usually visual learning for Exodus, 1 Kings, and Koheleth. That's Ecclesiastes. But every once in a while, I make one of them an auditory learning day as well, because I think it's good to kind of spread our minds like this, expand our minds. And some people actually have auditory learning as their primary learning style, and I don't want you guys to get left behind. So let me just say real quick, Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, Ken Yiratzon Ki Kol Shomei Koli Achshav Ki Yikye Lahem Beracha Mishamayim Ma'al Bi Adonai Ta'azerna Otam וגם אותי ללמוד טוב בעיניך. All right, let's get started. So I won't be drawing anything on the screen. It's an auditory class. So even though we usually have nice colors and stuff, if you've missed those classes, check them out. Oh, and we do have a long lesson on Saturdays, usually a 2-hour long class, which is focused on the ancient triennial Torah portion. So those might be worth checking out. We go through at least half of the Torah portion, oftentimes the whole thing in Hebrew. But there's less grammatical explanation in those and more commentary. But still, you can totally get your immersion on. If you split that one into 2 days, you've got 6 days a week. And I also put out other videos from time to time for vocabulary and such. If you like what we do here, I also have extra content for my patrons. So if you want to go on over to patreon.com/Hebrew Literacy and sign up over there to support us monthly, you'll find there's some extra videos there, some goodies for you guys as well. Including last week, I started releasing some of the rarer vocabulary words, the Hebrew word of the day, for our monthly supporters. Although I might bring some of those over from time to time for everybody as well, okay? All right, so let's get started. This is Judges. Chapter 3, verse 24. I will just scan the verse first and then we'll break it apart. Vehu yatsa ve'avadiv ba'u vayir'u vehine daltot ha'aliyah ne'olot vayomeru ach mesichu et raglaiv Bahadar Hamekera. Okay. Vehu yatsa. Ve, that's the vav. Hu. Now he, and he, if you want to be literal, yatsa. Yod Sadi Aleph. Yatsa is to go out. To come out. Right? Like this is where the derivative we get from this, it's very famous, is the Yetziah, the Exodus of Mitzrayim, Egypt. Excuse me, I paused while I sneezed. Hopefully that didn't interrupt too much. So, we don't need to say who, you see? Yatsa already means he went out. Now, probably what is happening here, it might not be emphasis here. It doesn't really feel like it's emphasis. It feels like the scribe or the prophet who penned this is being very careful, since oftentimes biblical Hebrew kind of obfuscates the antecedents of pronouns. Like when you say he or she, it's not always clear who we're talking about. So, Yatsa is he went out, but then we have the next word, Avdiv, and his servants. So the his is a different person than the one who Yatsa went out. So I think what the text is doing with Vehu Yatsa, even though we don't need that who, it says and he, and then Yatsa is he went out. So I think what it's doing is it's tying, by putting the who there at the beginning, it's kind of helping to resolve the ambiguity that it's Ehud. Ehud is the one who went out, right? Because we have in the previous verse what he did, Ve'iskol daltot ha'aliyah, and he closed the doors, or secured the doors of the upper chamber, ba'ado, by itself or by himself, ve'na'al, and he went out. That's Ehud. It's all Ehud, right? And so now, ve'hu refers to Ehud. All right, ve'hu yatsa. Now, he, meaning Ehud, yatsa, went out. And now we're going to change who the he is. Va'dive. Va, that's and you might be wondering why is it va instead of ve, right? And why is it an u? Well, it's not an u because we don't have the bump schwa rule in effect here. Not exactly, right? The ayin is not a b, not a m, not a p. It's not a labial, right? And it doesn't have a regular schwa underneath it, but it does have a composite schwa. The composite schwa, in this case, is chatuf patuch. It looks like a schwa, the two little colon, the colon marker, with a horizontal bar after it. That's the ah sound. So you still, even though the vav wants to start the word with the vav and the schwa under it, you cannot begin a word with two schwas in a row, right? So the first two consonants cannot both have schwas, even if one of them is a composite schwa. That's where it's got like a sound marker next to the schwa, like we have here. In that case, instead of having some other kind of lengthening that happens, the sound underneath the vav is going to emulate the sound sign, which is part of the composite schwa of the next letter. So the ayin has chatuf patuch, so we're going to copy that patach over under the vav. So that's why it's va. Va and avadiv, that's avadim, right? Like the famous song, Avadim hayinu, hayinu, slaves were we were, the famous Passover song. So, but it becomes avdei, so slaves of him, avadiv, and his slaves, or and his servants, in this case servants probably, ba'u. Now the u tells us it's they. Ba, it's came or entered. In this case, entered. They entered. Va yir u. Va yir u. So the verb is not yara, not to be afraid. It's ra'a, resh aleph hey, to see. So the yod at the beginning and the u at the end means they. So yir u means they will see, but va, we have the vav conversive, va yiru means and they saw. It changes the aspect to make it perfect, make it a completed action. So that's usually past tense for English. Vehu yatsa, and he went out, or when he went out, va'avadiv ba'u, then his servants entered. Va'yir, and they ra'ad, they saw. Vehine, and behold, daltot ha'aliyah, the doors of the upper chamber, ne'urlot, were locked, were fastened. Right, so they entered the one, but they notice it's fastened in the upper chamber. They couldn't open it. Vayomeru, rather, vayomeru. So the verb is amar, aleph mem resh, and the affixes are yod and u, which is they. So yomeru, they will say, vayomeru, the vav conversive, and they said, ach, aleph kaf. I love this. Ach, aleph kaf, alas, meisichu et raglaiv. B'chadar hamekera. So this is auditory, so you don't have to look. But if you are looking at the screen, you'll notice I have marked in green, and there's an ID above it. That means this is an idiom. So the first word, mesich, this is from the verb sachach. Samech kaf kaf. Which means like to partition off, right? To kind of seal off. We see this verbal form used, not the form, but we see this verb used in reference to the kanfei cheruvim, the wings of the cherubs on the Ark of the Covenant, right? The wings we're told that they seal off, they protect off that area, right? Their wings. They're not just up in the air. They're kind of like guarding the area, like you might imagine a bird might do to her young. Now this is a hiphil participle from it. So this one actually means to make hidden, right? Like you're sealing it off from view to cause it to be sealed off. So it's logical, you could get there. So literally it says, Mesichu, he has made sealed off, or has made hidden, has made secret, like unseen, et, we don't translate, raglaiv. So from regel, resh gimel lamed, which means foot. So we drop the mem, raglei, the feet of Ive, of him. He's made hidden his feet. Now, if ever you're reading certain biblical passages in Hebrew, and it's talking about feet, and it doesn't seem to make sense to you, that's because this is a euphemism for genitalia. Genitalia, right? So to hide the feet. So the whole thing's an idiom. Mesichu et raglai. So mesich, piloni, like for somebody to, piloni means somebody. That's actually not biblical Hebrew. That's rabbinical Hebrew. But for someone to make hidden feet, it's to hide the genitalia, right? To not just stand there and pee on a tree or pee on a wall in front of somebody. Okay? So they're like, oh, mesichu et raglaiv. He's taken a leak. It's something like that. Okay? And then they continue to say, the next part is not part of the idiom. B'chadar hamekera. So we have a construct chain. Chadar hamekera. So the word is usually cheder, chet, dalet, resh. It's a segelit. But this one's in the construct form. You can tell because the vowels changed. Instead of cheder, it became chada. Chada. So again, you might look at the ba and say, okay, the bait is in, but is that saying the? No, it's not. It's doing the exact same thing that I shared with you on va'avadaiv, the third word in verse 24. So we would like to say bait with a schwa under it, right? Inseparable prepositions, they take the schwa, they take the little colon with them. But you can't do it since the chet, we could have done it if it wasn't a construct, if it was cheder. You could say becheder, no problem. In a room, in a chamber. But because it's in a construct form, you can't put the definite article on a word which is in the construct form. So, that's not what it is. So you try to put the schwa there, but now because cheder has become chadar, with a chatav patach, it's a composite schwa, you can't start the word with two schwas in a row, so we're going to do the same kind of lengthening that we did with va-va-dive. We also lengthen the ve to the e to a. So same thing here, the e becomes an a of patach. It copies that vocalization from the composite schwa under the guttural that follows. And you'll notice this is a similar pattern with gutturals. The other word that I mentioned, the third word in verse 24, same thing. It also was a guttural, ayin. So gutturals, guys, cannot take of normal vocal schwa. That's why. So instead, they will usually have one of the composite schwas. Oftentimes this one, chatav patach, although not always. Right? Okay. So literally, be, in, chadar, room or chamber of ham, the mekera, the cooling room. Again, I mentioned last time, this word is kind of contested, but the root certainly looks like it's about cool or cool area or something. Ha mekera. So because it's a construct chain, And the last word has ha. It's not just mekera, it's ham mekera, the cooling room, the cool area. We will say the on the first word in the construct chain. So that is why ba chadar is in the chamber, in the cheder, in the room. It's not because of it having a definite article underneath the bait. Okay, so just, it's okay if you didn't get all that, don't worry. I will give more information than is needed because we have a large array of students. Some of you are just learning alphabet now, but you want to learn through immersion, which is great with Hebrew because we're learning the language of the prophets. So even if you didn't understand anything, there's still some value to your neshama to hearing biblical verses read aloud. You know, our sages believed, as shared in Berachot, in the Talmud, that just reading the Torah aloud, just reading it out loud in Hebrew, can scare demons away and such. They don't like it, right? There's power in the holy tongue when reciting sacred scripture. All right. So what did they say? Vayomeru, and they said, Ach, mesichu et raglaiv b'chada hamekera. Oh, he's making hidden his feet. Okay, so he's having some privacy. He's taking a leak in the, which actually adds credence to what we were talking about last time about Ehud having escaped through, maybe through the bathroom, in the cooling chamber. All right. I will read 24 one more time through. A bit faster. Vehu yatsa. Now he went out. By the way, you should try to think of it in your language, English, or whatever your language is, before I give the translation, if you can. It's okay if you're just hit and miss, getting some words, not getting others, no problem. Vehu yatsa. Now he went out, he exited. Va'avadiv. But his servants, meaning the aglons, ba'u, they entered. Yiראו, and they ra'ad, they saw, they looked, vehine, and check it out. Daltot ha'aliyah ne'olot. The doors of the chamber, or of the upper chamber, were ne'olot. They were sandaled, right? Same, relate to the word for sandal. They were tied shut. Vayomeru, and they said, Ach, mesichu et raglaiv b'chadar hamekera. He is hiding, causing to be sealed off his feet in the cooling chamber. Maybe even cooling chamber could have been a euphemism for the toilet, right? Like maybe like cool wind would blow up sometimes on the tuchus sitting there. It could be, actually. I think that makes some sense. Maybe it wasn't cool up there at all. They just called it the cooling chamber because of the place. I mean, look, they're using euphemism. They're not talking about his shlong or anything, right? They're saying his feet. So maybe they're doing the same thing with his tuchus, the place where the tuchus gets wind on it. All right. Verse 25. ויאכילו העדבוש, והנה איננו פותח דלתות העלייה. ויקחו את המפתח, ויפתחו, והנה אדוניהם נופל ארצה מת. Yay! All right, let's pick it apart now. Verse 25. ויאכילו. So the verb is yachal. This is a hiphil form. You can tell because of the yod there. And it just means they waited or they started. Now, don't think that it means like they caused to wait or something. In the hiphil, it can mean to wait or to hope. Although there is a nuance of this used in the Qumran manuscripts where it could be a different verb, but it looks the same, where it has the meaning of to be worried, right? So, who knows? It's kind of interesting. So, maybe they were hoping that this is true, but they waited. So, yachilu is they will wait, or they will hope. And then the vav changes it, so that they waited. Vayachilu. Hiphil-u. And they waited. Ad bosh. I like this expression. Ad. Ayin dalet is until bosh. Bosh is embarrassment. It's technically an infinitive construct, so it can function kind of as the idea, or it could be until they were embarrassed. Maybe that's better. Vayachilu ad bosh. And they waited until they were embarrassed. Or ashamed, maybe is better, right? Like to wait so long. Vehine. And behold, einenu folteach daltot ha'aliyah. Einenu. Einenu. So ein is without, literally, are not, new. They, so are not they, were not they, folteach, opening. So it's like they were not able to open it, even though it literally says, vehine, and behold, einenu. There was not they, folteach, active participle from patach, to open, right? So patach, peit, tav, chet, pardon me, peit. I think I'm hungry. That's like a morsel. Fe or pei, tav, chet, is to open, and a maftiach is a key, right? It's something that helps you to folteach. So there literally there was not opening, they were not opening, but it implies, the feeling to me is they were unable to open. Daltot from delit, which is door. Daltot means doors. In this case, it's construct. Doors of the aliyah, the chamber, the upper chamber. So, vehine, and behold, einenu, folteach, they were unable to open. Daltot ha'aliyah, the doors of the upper chamber there. Vayikhu. So the verb is lakach. Lamed, kof, or ka, or kof, or kuf, however you like to call that. There's different traditions. Chet. Lakach is to take. Yikhu means they will take, or they are taking. Imperfect, right? It's incompleted action. But we have the vav conversive, changing that to make it perfect. By the way, any Hebrew scholars, don't flame me below. I know that's technically not what's happening, but I think for people to learn, it's best to think of it like this. Vayikhu, and they opened. Et, aleph tav, we don't translate. Ham, the, mafteach, pardon, not open, they took, sorry. Vayikhu, and they took. Et, ham, mafteach, the key. So they got the key. I'd probably translate, they got the key. Vayiftahu, vayiftahu. So yiftahu, they will open, or they are opening. Imperfect. Vav conversive changes it to make it perfect. Vayiftahu, and they opened. Vehine, and behold, Adonehem, the Lord of them, their Lord, Nophel, had fallen, from the verb nafal, nun, pe, lamed. A lot of people associate this with the fallen ones, right? The Genesis 6:4, the sons of God who took the daughters of men and made children with them, right? They kind of did a perverse action, mixing the species. And that's not what the word means. It's not from this verb, probably. According to Dr. Michael Heiser, may he rest in peace, it's actually an Aramaicism, right? So the Nephilim, it's from Nephila in Aramaic, which means a giant, right? If we wanted it to say fallen ones, it would have to be an active participle, Nophilim, or we'd say ha Nophilim, the fallen ones. It could be a play on words, though. It could actually, don't get me wrong, it could be hinting, maybe there's a remnant hint there, like that's why Moshe chose that word to use when representing what happened to them. That indeed, they were giants and they were fallen ones. Because we have other names for giants in Hebrew that he could have selected. So it might have been intentionally using this word as kind of a double entendre, right? So anyway, so just in case you're wondering why sometimes I segue like this, I think it helps people to remember the vocabulary, the more connections we have with roots being used in scripture or allusions to roots. So, vehine, and behold, Adonehem, their Lord, Nophel, had fallen, artsa. So the word is eretz, 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 Eretz Yisrael. Eretz means land. Artsa, it has the hey locative at the end. So he had fallen towards the ground. We'd probably say on the ground in English to make it sound right. You know, these things don't always map one to one. So behold, their Lord, Adonaihem, Nofel, had fallen, he had nafaled. Artsa, on the ground. Mate. Mem, tav, mate. And if you don't remember what this word means, I don't know, it's been a long time since I've driven around the United States, but I remember it used to be quite common to see the advertisement for Met life insurance. And they always had like Snoopy on their bulletins or whatever. And it always made me smile. I'd be driving down the road and there's a big bulletin board and it would say, get Met, it pays. Which is true. This is true. It's not false advertising. The way that you win the game of life insurance is if you die, it pays. And so if we understand it as a Hebrew word, get Met, get dead, it pays. So anyway, maybe that'll be a useful mnemonic for some of you. When you see Met or mate in Hebrew, that means dead. So Vehine Adonaihem Nofel Artsa, mate. He got Snoopy, he got dead. One more time through verse 25. Try to understand, try to provide the words in English or in your language before I say them, okay? Just do your best. It's okay if you don't get it all. Vayachilu, vayachilu, ad bush. And they waited until they were ashamed. Vehine, einenu foteach. Vehine, einenu foteach. Daltot ha'aliyah. Daltot, from delit. Ha'aliyah. Vehine, and behold, einenu foteach daltot ha'aliyah. No one was able to open the doors of the chamber. Vayikchu et hamafteach. Vayikchu et hamafteach. And they took the mafteach, the thing that you patach with, the key. Viftachhu. Vayiftachu. Pardon me. Vayiftachu. And they fatacht. They opened. Vehine. Adonaihem. Nofel artsa. Vehine. And behold. Adonaihem. The Lord of Hem. Their Lord. Nofel. He had nafald. Artsa. On the ground. He fell on the ground. He had fallen on the ground. Mate. He got met, and it paid. Mate. Dead. Can't whistle right now. I don't know what's going on. Too many saltines, perhaps? I'm just kidding. I'm not eating crackers. All right. Let's go verse 24 and 25 again. Verse 24. Vehu yatsa. Now he escaped. Literally, he went out, meaning Ehud. Va'avadiv ba'u. And his servants entered. Vayiru. And they ra'ad. Resh aleph hey. They saw. Vehine. Daltot ha'aliyah ne'urlot. The doors of the chamber were ne'urlot. Na'al. They were shut. They were tied shut like sandaled. They were sandaled. You could say that. Let's be hyperliteral. They were sandaled like you do with your sandals. Vayomeru. Ach mesichu et raglaiv b'chadar ha'mekera. Ach. Surely, or alas, mesich, he's caused to sachach, he's sealed off, he's caused to be hidden, who, he, et raglaiv, the feet of him, b'chadar, in the cheder of ha'mekera, the cooling one. Verse 25, vayachilu ad bosh, and they waited until they were embarrassed. Vehine, einenu foteach daltot ha'aliyah. Vehine, and behold, einenu. Not they, foteach, opened, daltot ha'aliyah, daltot, the doors of the aliyah, of the chamber. Vayikhu et hamafteach, ויפתחו, והנה, אדוניהם נופל ארצה מת. ויקחו, and they לקחת, and, pardon me, they לקחת, what did they לקח? את המפתח, the מפתח, the thing that you patach with, the key. ויפתחו, and they opened, והנה, אדוניהם נופל ארצה. Mate. Verse 26. Ve'ehud nimlat ad hitmaham vehu avar et hapesilim vayimalet hase'irata. All right. Judges 3, verse 26. Ve'ehud, I don't know why that's not gray. There, fixed it. Now, Ehud, Nimlat, he escaped. The root is malat, mem, lamed, tet. And it usually is in the Niphal binyan. It doesn't mean like it's a passive thing, right? So that noon at the beginning, Nimlat, is just telling us that he fled to safety. Ehud Nimlat. There is a bit of emphasis here by putting Ehud before the verb, right? Usually we would expect Nimlat Ehud. Although that would have been the Yimalet, it would have had to first make it imperfect and then involve conversive with the style that's used here. So we could have said Vayimalet Ehud. But because it says Ve'ehud, there's some kind of emphasis, perhaps to make sure that we don't get confused about who the he is. Ve'ehud Nimlat. Now Ehud fled to safety. He escaped. Ad, until, or here it kind of feels like on account of, hitmah meham. Now this guy is a bit of a weird word. It's a pilpel binyan. Dr. Devere, if you're listening, I know you like these. Pilpel, so a rarer binyan, which really functions, well, pardon me, it's hitpalpel. So it functions like hitpal. It happens the pattern to be a bit different, right? The verbal root is mem, hey, and then hey with a mapik in it. It's ma, ha. But we don't see it in other binyans. It just shows up this way. It shows up maybe, 5 or 6 times. Maybe, I don't think it's even 10 times in scripture. But it means to delay, to tarry. So, ad, it means until. The Ehud nimlat. Now Ehud fled to safety. Ad, until, or like I said, it feels like on account of, because hitmah meham. It's an infinitive form, so it's very flexible, and then it has an am at the end, so it's literally hitmah meham, right? So remember, when you have an infinitive, whatever the binyan is, whatever the verbal stem is, and you put the suffix on the end, that's telling you who it is. So literally it's saying hitmah meham. It's literally saying the delaying of them, right? So on account of, or until they're delaying, quite literally, ad, until, hitmah meham, until they're delaying. Vehu avar. Vehu, now he, avar, again, special emphasis, you don't have to say who here, because avar, ayin beit resh, avar already means he crossed over, right? He crossed over, he passed through, right? So now he passed through, right? So, well, he himself is probably how I would translate this. So the Ehud nimlat. Now Ehud escaped. Ehud fled for safety. Ehud. Ad, until, just being hyperliteral here, hitmah meham, the delaying of them. Vehu, now he, avar, he himself, avar, crossed over, or passed through, et hapesilim, the root being fasal, which is to chisel or to carve. So this is like the graven images, maybe this place where there's some statues or some junk that these guys had, which is interesting because if you embrace the concept of sacred space, I think the text is mentioning this to show the importance that he got out of their area where their spirits were, where their demons, their shedim, had some kind of dominion that was permitted to them by Hashem. He's getting out of their place. We're supposed to feel, the reader in ancient times, I think, who would understand the concept of sacred space would read this and sigh some relief. He got out from there. He passed through already this very dangerous area where their idols were at. Vayimalet, here's the form I was talking about before. So the second word, nimlat, I told you that if we didn't want to have the emphasis with Ehud, the subject being explicitly mentioned first before the verb, we could have said it this way, vayimalet. So this is another Niphal form. There's a dagish in the mem. Vayim malet. So it would have been vayin malet in ancient times. That became vayim malet. And he fled, or he made it to safety. Where to? Ha-se'irata. Ha-se'irata. This is a place name. I have it engraved if you're looking, but obviously you can't hear colors when I'm reading it. All right? Let's read 26 one more time. Ve'ehud nimlat ad hitma maham. Ve'hu avar et hapesilim. And he himself, or while he himself, passed through the place of the graven images. Vayimalet, and he escaped. Ha-se'irata. The at the end. So the place is actually called ha-se'ira. But because we have at the end, that means the direction of that place. That's the direction he escaped towards. He ran off towards that way. Let's just see what the critical apparatus says about this. Okay, just telling us that various manuscripts say se'irotha. So very similar, because that tav, without a dagish in ancient pronunciation, would have been a tha. So se'iratha, that makes sense. But there they're treating it as part of the name, right? Not with a hey locative. Good. Hit ma meham. Being delayed of them. Vehu ava, and he crossed over, passed through the place of these graven images, hapesilim, vayim malet, and yimalet, he will escape, vayimalet, and he escaped, or he fled to safety, ha-se'irata, towards se'ira. It's telling us the route he took. All right. What are we doing on time? Let me see. Trying to see if I should continue on. How much time? I want to make sure you get good understanding. Although the story is very exciting, it's nice to keep reading. Let's go through one more time. Let's solidify what you've heard without being tempted to do too much more, and maybe I'll just gloss the rest for you, just so you can have some of that excitement, like preview of next time. Cliffhanger. All right, I'm going to read 24, 25, and 26 now. Do your best to understand them, okay? Vehu yatsa. V'avadiv. Pardon me, my throat's dry. V'avadiv ba'u. Vayir'u. Vehine. Daltot ha'aliyah ne'olot. Vayomeru. Ach mesichu et raglaiv. B'chadar ha'mekera. 25. Vayachil'u ad bosh. And they waited until bosh, embarrassment. Vehine einenu foteach daltod ha'aliyah. Vayikechu et ham mafteach. Vayiftachu. Vehine adonehem nofel arza mate. 26. ואהוד נמלט עד התמהם, והוא עבר את הפסילים, וימלט השעירתה. Okay. One more time through. Normal pace, without any hints or any tonal hints, okay? והוא יצא, ועבדיו באו ויראו, והנה דלתות העלייה נעולות, ויאמרו, אך מסיחו את רגליו בחדר המקרה, ויאכילו עד בוש, והנה איננו פותח דלתות העלייה. ויקחו את המפתח, ויפתחו, והנה אדוניהם נופל ארצה מת. ואהוד נמלט עד התמהם, והוא עבר את הפסילים, וימלט השעירתה. And then just a preview of things to come, maybe for our cliffhanger. 27. ויהי בבואו ויתקע בשופר בהר אפרים, וירדו עמו בני ישראל מן ההר, והוא לפניהם. ויהי, and behold, בבואו ויתקע בשופר. You know, sorry, there's a problem with our electricity. I'm not sure what's going on. ויהי בבואו, and behold, when he arrived, ויתקע בשופר. He blew the shofar, Behar Ephraim, at Mount Ephraim. Vayeredu Imo, and there descended with him, V'nei Yisrael, the children of Israel, Min Hahar, from the mountain, Vehu Lifneihem, and he was before them. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Please give me comments if you weren't here for the premiere and you were unable to comment in the live chat. Then please leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. If you had any questions or comments or anything was useful or funny, or you found a good mnemonic, you got some good ways of remembering words, share it with everybody. Until next time, keep working on your Hebrew. It is Lashon HaKodesh, and this does count as Bible study. Shalom, shalom.